In this video we will go over all of the assault rifles in Mass Effect Andromeda, the best augment setup for each gun, then compare those to find the best assault rifle for you. Remember folks, if you enjoyed these videos be sure to hit that like button. It lets me know the type of content you actually want to see, and maybe think about subscribing if you haven't already, to keep informed on all the good stuff from Mass Effect Andromeda. Without further delay, let's get into the video. So when it comes to assault rifles, I always think of mid-range precision on one side and close to mid-range blitzing and annihilation on the other. As assault rifles can cover a number of different uses, there will be three top picks. One focused on precision players going for some semi-automatic headshot goodness at mid to close range, and another going for complete carnage where only 50-70% of shots will actually hit, and when they do it just tears them in half or jackhammers through some masonry, and a midway point balance between precision and obliteration. There will also be a fourth classification for special weapons. These do not fit comfortably in the other three due to special attributes. These two guns are the Sonid and the Falcon, the Sonid being a minigun and the Falcon being a grenade launcher. These special guns will not be ranked with the others, but will be reviewed for their use. The testing process will be performed in normal difficulty. The guns will be tested at rank 2. Each gun will be briefly explained with recommended augments and mods used and why, followed by testing of the gun at long, mid and close range on a collection of standard targets. It should also be noted that my skills during all testing are maxed out assault rifles and combat fitness in the combat skills tree, with the rank 2 soldier profile active. No other skills are active. The guns being tested are Cyclone, M37 Falcon, M8 Avenger, M96 Mattock, N7 Valkyrie, P.A.W, Revenant, Sandstorm, Sweeper, Thokin, Sonid and the Zalkin. For those wondering about the L89 Halberd, from everywhere I've looked, it would appear it is not possible to gain the blueprint for this weapon. You can obtain a rank 1 L89 Halberd from the weapons merchant in Kadara Port. No other means appear to be there. On that subject, if anyone has obtained an L89 Halberd of a different rank or the blueprints to the weapon from anywhere, all information on this would be hugely appreciated and welcome in the comments. The Cyclone fits into the fully automatic classification with a low damage of 38 at rank 2 and a rate of fire of 675. Its clip size is huge at 80 with equally decent reserves of 321. It starts to fail quite a bit with its accuracy of 62. This is where balance would have been achieved if they made it a little more accurate. The weight is on the high side of medium at 26. I see the Cyclone as a minigun. The augments for this gun are up for debate. The vintage heatsink could be of use here, but the Cyclone's initial wind-up before shooting makes it less effective than most. The reload speed isn't all that bad, but the vintage heatsink cannot negate the wind-up speed. The bioconverter has the same issue though, being a much better option for fully automatic classified weapons, as with such a weapon you don't pause between shots as much as you would semi-automatic, which will always lead to an overheat with the heatsink. With the Cyclone and its two augment slots without the cryo perk, I would suggest neither the vintage or bioconverter and simply rely on ammo pods, using the augment slots for a double mod extension and maybe an aero performance optimizer for some high damage while hovering. For mods I would use a barrel for damage, magazine for clip size, scope for accuracy and a stock for stability. The Cyclone performed poorly at mid-range. The stability is a real issue, and with it only starting to cause damage after you've been on the target for a few hits, it really shows its flaws. I did try the vintage heatsink on the weapon anyway, and this was better, as while it has a huge capacity for ammunition, it goes through super fast without doing all that much carnage. I tried a third approach, running in head first to make use of the aerial performance optimizer. This was noticeably more effective, but even on normal this exposes you to such a degree that it is very easy to die. If you had every shield, armor and health boost out there, this could be a very fun weapon for close range hover death, but otherwise it is to be avoided. I think the plus 35% rate of fire when hovering may give a better experience as opposed to the plus 35% damage, but that would of course require a vintage or bio no matter what, as you'll empty your reserves so fast. The Avenger is a generic, nothing special looking assault rifle. At least it would seem by looking at the stats. With damage of 40, rate of fire of 525, clip size of 48 and a max ammunition of 385, it feels like a Cyclone's baby brother. Then the accuracy of 77 starts to make it feel a little more balanced than a nice low 19 weight. This gun is worth a test. This assault rifle fits into the automatic classification. The augments for this gun will be simple. Vintage heatsink, though a bioconverter would be better if you have the skills in life support, and a double mod extension to fill its 2 augment slots. The mods to be used in this gun are a barrel for damage, magazine for clip size, scope for accuracy, and a stock for stability. The penetration and headshot from receiver would be great, but I deem it the least important mod for this gun. The field test on the M8 Avenger showed its stability was actually quite good, especially compared to the Cyclone. Its damage felt a little better also. I assume this is down to the higher accuracy and better stability making more projectiles hit the target, even though the rate of fire is lower and the damage is similar. While better than Cyclone in pretty much every way as a whole, as far as an actual usage goes, this is still not an amazing assault rifle. It's certainly usable and requires no research to gain the blueprint, which is great. There are better options for the fully automatic class. The PAW or Particle Accelerator weapon is a kind of beam weapon that at least appears to shoot a continuous beam, yet it is, as with everything based on basic numbers, of 46 damage at a rate of fire of 600, with a clip size of 42. The damage is low but to be expected with a high rate of fire. The clip size is also low until you consider that it has a built-in heatsink, which makes it actually not that bad. Even so, with the built-in sink, its rate of fire compared to its damage is lacking. That's where the super high 112 accuracy comes in. The high accuracy is a strange thing to see on a weapon that fits fully in the automatic class, but it's a standard for Revenant weapons. Their low damage over time compared to Helios and Milky Way is offset by high precision and unlimited ammo. Many people swear by the PAW, mixed with the electrical conduits or plasma augments, and that the electrical conduits especially is great for shields and architects. But while it's okay for that, a properly outfitted Piranha is better and is usable in far more situations. The augments we'll be testing on the PAW are double mod slot, equilibrium regulator for 5% damage and moving slowly or 10% fast. This can be changed out for whichever suits your playstyle better, but this seems the best default choice. Then fill the kinetic coils by default. We will also be trying the bioconverter to see how it performs, as my main problem with this gun in previous testing is its low clip size, and while it's already unlimited ammo, it's worth a try. And another quick test with the bio mixed with electrical conduits, as with the instant reload the conduits may be usable. Mods for this weapon are barrel for damage, scope for just having a scope. The accuracy isn't needed, so if you prefer to hipfire, definitely go for the magazine for clip size. Stock for stability and receiver for penetration and headshot bonus. So the field test started with the equilibrium build. The clip size once again brought the whole experience down. It's a good weapon for the damage with rate of fire, better than the stats would suggest, but the small clip size and constant overheating happens just as the damage starts to build to full. I do not recommend the PAW at this build. However, the second test using the bioconverter made this gun very, very good. The bioconverter mixed with the vintage isn't a waste. It's a match made in heaven. Sure, they're both given limited ammo, but if you pause for a second, the heatsink still kicks in to reload the charge without a health knock. The bioconverter also gives you a chance to reach max DPS and properly melt those larger anointed and such. The stability takes a bit of getting used to, but once you have, keeping a constant headshot will kill them so quickly. The third and kind of fun build was a bioconverter with electrical conduits. People had mentioned in the comments about me not testing the electrical conduits enough on the PAW, and with my main issue being clip size, this was worth a try. It did not at all disappoint. It was standard against the average enemy, but against shielded targets they were obliterated. Range is certainly an issue. This gun has a short range really, midway to medium at best. About 60 metres or so I've found, and the electrical conduit shortens out further. But if you are within the needed range, this is just lethal against those enemies. I loved this setup so much I went and found a fiend to test armour for a larger target. This is where it really pointed out that this is a shield-only weapon. It didn't do terribly, but a shotgun, either Piranha or Darn, would be far superior here. After that I went and found a small little sub-vault and took on some Revenant. Turns out it melts those super fast too. It is on par, if not a little faster on observers than my level 3 vanilla Darn. Without a solid test I can't say which is better, but I will definitely be making a custom PAW with electrical conduits and bioconverter to take with me to my next Architect Rumble and see how it performs on the legs and face versus a Piranha. Revenant is another fully automatic class assault rifle that boasts rate of fire and capacity above all. Its damage is low at 45 and rate of fire high at 620. The clip size is a monster at 96 with a max capacity of 463. Seems okay so far, but then you see the accuracy is an awful 59 and the weight is a heavy 30. At first look this rifle doesn't seem all that. Its clip size being large feels like it may allow for a vintage to be usable. But with a high rate of fire, the clip size with vintage would be taken to around the same as the PAW, leading to the same problems without possibility to fix with a bioconverter. So with that said, I would not suggest this weapon with a heatsink, and instead only bioconverter, which of course requires some tech skills and health regen for long-term use. You could use this gun without an unlimited ammo source of course, which would be preferable to the heatsink. The main problem to solve in this gun is the accuracy, so that can be done by either using a super close range or by fitting a Seeking Plasma augment. We'll test both to see if it's worth the trouble. The augments used in this test will be Equilibrium Regulate with double mod and Kinetic Coil for build 1. The equilibrium will shine in this test as without accuracy this gun requires close range, and therefore movement will be essential during its use. The second build will consist of a bioconverter, Seeking Plasma and double mod extension. The mods recommended for this gun are barrel for damage, magazine for clip size, scope for accuracy, and stock for stability. The field tests for the Revenant were interesting indeed. The equilibrium build was ineffective at range as predicted, but quite fun and effective when just waltzing toward the enemy letting rip. This build is just not usable above normal difficulty of course. I class it as a fun in normal build. It is definitely fun. The second build, however, with the Seeking Plasma shows promise, leading to very real headshots at mid-range, if not a little slow on the build-up. The Seeking Plasma system slows the projectile, so it'll take a second to get there, but once it does it's quite deadly. The first build proved a surprise, beast one-on-one or even two at once with fiends. As you are likely always moving, the equilibrium augment shines, and its size renders the low accuracy inconsequential. So versus a fiend, the first build is quite effective, but having such a narrow field of use makes this a general no-go for practical reasons. The Thokin is a fully automatic assault rifle that seems great on paper with a fairly manageable negative attribute. Its damage is low but higher than most at this rate of fire level, being 59 on the damage and 750 on the rate of fire. Its accuracy is 75, which is a bit crap but not the worst. Its weight is a balmy 22 and its bad points are the clip size and max ammo. Its clip size of 32 and max ammo of 205 makes this a must for a bioconverter. The clip is already super low, so a vintage with this rate of fire would have you overheating far more than actually firing. The accuracy isn't horrible, and with the scope and stock this could be usable. The augments for this build are the bioconverter, double mod extension and kinetic coil. The mods are a barrel for damage, magazine for clip size, scope for accuracy and stock for stability. I was thoroughly surprised by the Thokin during the field test. It was extremely enjoyable, and with the bioconverter made very short work of the Ket. Its low clip size also made extremely short work of my health, but it was still manageable, taking down 2 bases in a short time with no access to health pods until the end. The damage was even acceptable against the fiend that decided to crash the party. This gun absolutely needs a bioconverter to function well, but with it, it is a beast. The built-in lesser plasma tracking provided to boost the accuracy needed and made headshots relatively realistic for all targets, taking them down super fast, made short work of the shields too. The N7 Valkyrie is the first assault rifle in our balanced class of mid-weight burst weapons between precision and fully automatic. Damage is on the high side of medium at 140 with an impressive 500 rate of fire. The clip size is 26, which is adequate and has an acceptable but not impressive ammo capacity of 165. But with an accuracy of 97 and a tiny weight of 15, this gun is a real contender. For Augments we can fix its only main weakness of ammo capacity by putting in a vintage heatsink. This is not a gun that absolutely needs a bioconverter, but if you already have the skills for team sport and life sport then definitely put in the bioconverter for a fully unleashed rifle. Insanity, as with pretty much all, damn near demands the bioconverter due to the mobs requiring more of a projectile investment in their deaths. This is an ultra rare weapon, so by default holds 4 augments. The second should be a double mod slot extension, and the remaining 2, potentially 3, being stacked with minor damage increases, the default being kinetic coil. As for mods, stability is a must with this gun. The second shot of the burst fire will often be lost if you don't attend to this. So stock is the number 1 here. While accuracy isn't a must, the scope is. So scope, and the final 2 being barrel for damage and receive for penetration and headshot bonus. The field test of the Valkyrie was a lot of fun. The only drawbacks are the stability for the second shot hitting and the vintage heatsink cooling down. If you can spare for live support and use this on the close side of medium range, then you'll be unstoppable. Whether this gun is amazing or not depends on getting that second shot to hit. If you have the stabilising skills and a stock mod and get close enough, you can get a double headshot 2 to 3 times a second, which just melts the enemy's health. It's fairly crazy really. This was my original rifle choice and its burst function always annoyed me. I prefer a slightly more powerful single shot for high precision shooting. This is still a super nice weapon, even for someone like me and my playstyle. The Sweeper is another addition to the balanced class, having a 3-shot burst mode of fire. It has a medium damage of 101 with a high rate of fire for a balanced weapon at 450. It is very similar in type to the Valkyrie. The max clip size of 30 fits well with a balanced class weapon with a built-in heatsink leading to the possibility to using without a bioconverter as high. Though, as with the Sandstorm, if you have the tech skills already or are playing Insanity difficulty, a bio is a must, as you won't kill the enemies quick enough in Insanity to prevent overheating. Its accuracy is super high to 104 and its weight is a nice 19. As with the Valkyrie, we can assume its crux will be those second and third shots hitting due to recoil. The high rate of fire should help with this. The augments to be tested are the bioconverter, double mod slot and kinetic coil. It should be noted that the Seeking Plasma would be effective at extending the range. The recommended mods are barrel for damage, scope so you have a scope, stock for stability and receive for penetration headshot bonus. The Sweeper performed in a mediocre fashion during the field test. It was a little better at longer ranges than I expected and the power is there from time to time, but it felt like a lesser version of the Valkyrie. The main difference being that the Sweeper has a vintage heatsink built in, so pairing with the bio makes for a nice mingling of augments. But that trade-off of the damage and general responsiveness of the weapon isn't worth it. If you want this kind of weapon, the Valkyrie is better. The Zalkin fits into the balanced class of assault rifles. It is not automatic and lacks the precision to be, well, precision, but it has a unique effect with a built-in plasma charge system. Its damage is a medium 94 with a relatively high rate of fire of 475, though that rate of fire is wasted if you are to use the gun's maximum potential, which is a plasma charge system. Without it, I would infer its use is quite bad, but I'll remain open-minded for the test. Its clip size is 38, which if charging is great, but if not is awful. The max ammo is acceptable at 246, and its accuracy is somewhat lacking at 72 with a nice weight of 19. The augments of this one in theory should work well with a vintage heatsink. If you are charging then it will likely not overheat. If however you use it as a quick shot, which would be pointless for this gun, it will overheat very quickly and require a bioconverter for sure. So we'll go with the vintage heatsink and double mod slot to fill its 2 augment slots. The mods for this gun when used to charge would require very little stability enhancement, so barrel for damage, magazine for clip size, scope for accuracy and receiver for penetration and headshot bonus. In the field test, the Zalkin proved to be a very strange weapon. Its charge system proved to be almost entirely useless, but the single shot was actually effective, doing very high damage in a short time, high enough to take down a Destin before overheat. The points they added to the charge system when balancing this weapon have made it fall short. If they had not included this worthless system and added a little more accuracy, this gun could have been a very good precision weapon. Stretching the timing with the burst charge shots to its limits provides awful damage and doesn't fire as you would expect it to, all at once. It instead releases them one after another in quick succession. It does this at a rate you could match yourself without having to charge for a fraction of a second first. This not only wastes time but takes away some of the control of those bullets. With the clip size being less of an issue than first thought, the vintage is still effective, yet a bioconverter would of course be better and needed for Insanity. The Mattock is our next assault rifle and fits perfectly into the precision class with a lack of burst or automatic fire settings, yet a very high accuracy of 90. A medium damage of 73 is offset by a super high rate of fire of 405, which is medium for automatic, but for single shot is a little much if anything. This will allow you to shoot as fast as your fingers allow. The Mattock's weight is a nice low 19 and has a fairly decent clip size of 26, and max ammo reserves of 205. The clip size may prove troublesome considering its damage with the vintage heatsink, but I fear that is still the best option. The augments used in this test are the vintage heatsink and the double mod extension to fill the 2 augment slots. The bioconverter would be a must on Insanity due to the higher health to down, meaning the vintage heatsink would overheat, often rendering it nowhere near as useful. The mods used are the barrel for damage, magazine for clip size, scope for accuracy and receive for penetration and headshot bonus. The Mattock field test was awful with the vintage heatsink. It barely took anything down before overheating super fast. It was just about unusable, so I decided to do another test with the bioconverter, and this gun really starts to shine with this augment. The instant reload with not all that much of an effect to health with the team support was great. The rate of fire of the Mattock really comes into it here. It still takes a fair few shots to take an enemy down, but if your finger is quick enough it won't take long, though long battles will be quite taxing to your finger fatigue. The overly high rate of fire also allows you to use mods that reduce the rate of fire while increasing the penetration and headshot damage, as it will still be faster than you need. Fun and very effective for those who wish to gain 8-inch finger biceps, but due to the low damage per shot, there is better in the precision class. The Sandstorm fits into precision classification with damage on the high side being 187, mixed with a nice rate of fire of 210, making it fantastic for those with a quick trigger finger who live for the headshot. The max clip size of 19 is fully acceptable for a precision shooter, and a maximum ammo capacity of 93 making it okay on vanilla, but really shining with certain augments. The accuracy really brings this gun to the front at 101, with a weight of 26 putting it on the high side of medium. The augments of this gun should definitely include either a vintage heatsink or a bioconverter. I think the vintage heatsink really goes well with this weapon due to its firing rate. While its rate of fire is a nice balance to the damage, it is semi-automatic and will require pumping and not just to hold down and pray. This mixed with the guns typically being used for headshots mean you can down a number of enemies in even half a clip, which is what you'll have using the vintage heatsink. But as such you'll rarely overheat due to yourself cooling down between enemies. This is not true however for Insanity mode where the bioconverter would be a better choice. Enemies require more shots to take down, so you would likely overheat more often. So vintage heatsink for normal and maybe hardcore, with bioconverter as a must for Insanity. Mix that with a double mod slot extension and a kinetic core to fill its 3 augment slots as default and you're a happy chap. For mods this gun excels in accuracy, so that is one mod you don't really need to invest in. So going for a barrel for damage, magazine for clip size, stock for stability and receive for penetration and headshot damage will do you very well on this weapon. The test went quite well, taking down enemies from cover at a comfortable rate. Headshots really took down health quickly and allowed for the clip to regenerate at a speed that for the most part prevented an overheat, allowing for continuous and consistent damage. Its effectiveness against shielded enemies at only rank 2 with the bare minimum combat skills and minor armoured enemies was satisfactory, implying good damage against larger armoured enemies at higher ranks. I have been using the Sandstorm at rank 4 recently with great success and can say for sure it is quite capable as a backup to your shotgun on fiends and above. The M37 Falcon is the first of our special classification assault rifles, as it is actually a grenade launcher. Who knows why it's in the assault rifles, but it is here, so here we go. The M37 Falcon fires grenades that ricochet off flat surfaces and explode on impact with enemy targets. The rounds hit for a hefty 341 damage, and it is worth noting that these are grenades, so that damage is area of effect damage, and so will hit multiple targets near the original. The area of effect is quite small though, so don't expect too much, far less than an Omni grenade. The rate of fire is that of a low to medium rate sniper rifle at 90. This is actually fairly well balanced considering the damage per shot. A max clip size of 10 seems about right with a max ammunition of an on the low side 39. Its accuracy is quite good at 72 and a surprisingly low weight for what it is at 22. For augments, a vintage or bioconverter is absolutely necessary for this weapon considering its low capacity. Too low to take up a spot in your loadout. A vintage is acceptable as the standard, but if you have the skills to put it into life support in the team support tech tree, then bioconverter is definitely better for keeping the clip size large. It is also worth exploring the use of this weapon without a vintage or bio, and instead using an aerial performance optimizer, as this gun would logically stand out for far better angles when shooting at close range from above, so I'll test both. This gun can only make use out of 2 mods, so double mod extension is not optimal. Instead, just stack kinetic coils as default. For mods on this weapon, the penetration is rendered moot via the ricochet, and even if the AoE effect could travel through surfaces with the penetration, it is such a small area it would be pointless. Also, while the accuracy is good, the scope will be a hindrance and the stability is a non-issue on such a slow rate of fire weapon, for the most part. So barrel for damage and magazine for clip size. For this test I actually made 3 guns. The first was with the vintage heatsink and the rest kinetic coils as per the default stackables. It was surprisingly effective provided you hit the target head on. The ricochet system is so pedantic, you require some supreme MLG status to be able to hit more than a third of the time on a bounce in usual terrain. The second being an aerial performance optimizer setup filling gaps with kinetic coils. This had the same problem as a Cyclone of being way too exposed when hovering. I'd hoped it would be better considering the damage is confined to short bursts instead of holding down a trigger, but my experience showed a fairly sharpish death. The third was with the aerial performance optimizer plasma charge system and plasma seeking system. Now this sounds like it may work, but once tested it is illogical why it does not. The seeking plasma organ keeps the general damage there while making the projectile go in a fairly nice straight line. This even overpowers the arc of the plasma charge. The plasma charge system gives you the ability to charge the shot for a triple threat of projectiles, which actually does hardly any more damage, and the time spent charging and setting this up makes it pointless to use. Add this to hovering and it once again requires MLG precision and timing, and even when you do pull it off it's less effective than just aiming and shooting. The Falcon has a pretty damn good range, it barely arcs anyway, so can shoot nice and straight at medium range with ease, even further than you'd expect. I see this gun as a good hip-fire fun-time gun. It's satisfying and actually does decent damage provided you whack 'em head on. I won't use this as part of my loadout, but it does have its charms. The Sonid, the big ass special class minigun. It has a low damage of 43 but a huge rate of fire of 850. This is offset by the spin-up speed which takes almost a second to begin firing. This can be gotten used to fairly quickly for timing it in. The maximum clip size is more than just huge at 192 with a max capacity of 463. Its accuracy is its primary downfall at 44, with another big hit to the power users with a weight of 46. The augments required for this weapon are seeking plasma system. This is a must as it negates the inherent awful accuracy. A bioconverter is also very useful DPS increase, taking away not only the reload but all but the initial spin-up. Stick a double mod slot extension also with the kinetic coil to finish as a default. The mods to this weapon are easy. It can't use the scope, so barrel for damage, magazine for clip size, which adds a lot to the gun like this. Stock for stability and receiver for penetration headshot bonus. The Sonid was super interesting. It fails at my previous method of running out and shooting stuff, but does better than I expected in cover. This should definitely be used in cover for a number of reasons. The obvious one is of course less bullets hitting you, but also when you are in cover, if you have life support and more in the team sport tech tree, the bioconverter is completely negated without having to use tech skills. Your clip is just so damn big that your in-cover regen is more than the bio takes. This means that you can keep the Sonid going indefinitely. The only problem with this is that the stability requires you to occasionally adjust, so eventually your mouse will drop off the edge of your mouse mat, but by then you've cleared a camp. Quite a cool fun weapon. Its weight will prevent its use by most and it's not generally all that practical, but for fun it is definitely a winner. So my top picks will be on the 3 categories: automatic, balanced and precision. The top pick for automatic is the Thokin, followed very closely by the P.A.W. The 2 being on par for shielded foes and the like, with the Thokin pulling above it in its wider range of targets. The P.A.W. is only effective against shielded to a large degree when combined with the electrical conduits and bioconverter, whereas the Thokin still performs adequately on armoured targets. The top pick for balanced is the Valkyrie. It's a classic really, it's satisfying, accurate and if you use it properly very effective. And the top pick for precision, as some of you may know from my comments in the live stream, the Sandstorm. The Mattock was close behind, but I feel the Sandstorm has an edge in the precision class. It's even usable as a shorter range sniper rifle for those wanting an assault rifle with only 2 spots in their loadout. Do you agree with these or think they're complete rubbish? Let me know in the comments. A quick note on augments and mods. Remember the mods have different versions which give a great effect at the cost of something else. For some, having the weight increase for an extra damage percentage might be great, or even some guns that require no headshot bonus could have a higher penetration with a calibrated receiver version. It's always worth considering those little refinements. This also plays into augments. Other than the vintage bio, seeking and double mod slot when mentioned, the other slots are refinable to your playstyle. If you didn't require a vintage or bio, then you could use another type of special augment like the equilibrium or a shield booster. There are many that may help you specifically, whether you prefer to hover shoot a lot or walk while shooting. And as far as the filler augments go, I always say Kinetic Coil at default as it's just a flat 3% damage increase, but you could refine it by using anti-armor or anti-shield augments for 5% on that instead of 3% overall. There are also many 5% increases to Bardic powers, tech powers, recharging, etc. There's a huge list, so experiment to refine it to you. This has been the biggest guide / field test / showcase I've ever done. I went far more in depth than before due to comments criticising my testing methods, so it's important you let me know how you feel about this. Was this too long, or would you prefer it to be more concise, or are you happy to get every last bit of info possible? The length and of course work requirement for this one was so big that I'll be splitting pistols up into SMGs and pistols as 2 separate videos. If you enjoyed this video or found it remotely informative in a way that helped you, hitting that like button is a great quick way to let me know so I can better work out how to make the best content possible. If you disliked it, that of course is valid, so hit the dislike, and if possible, let me know specifically why in the comments. If you haven't already, maybe think about subscribing, and above all, have an awesome day folks.